Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with a very quick update for you today for Bitcoin and XRP, and Jack Frost will be back tomorrow for your Ethereum and Solana update. Bitcoin has broken out of the rectangle only just. I'm moving the lower edge of the rectangle down to be as conservative as possible because rectangles, unfortunately, commonly have false breakouts. So we need to be as conservative as possible before we can have confidence that price is broken out of the rectangle. The rectangle here, huge sideways movement, where price entered on 28th of February this year, and it's been moving sideways with a very slight downward bias for the last couple of months or so, a few months. On the 5th of July, price moved strongly below the lower edge of the rectangle, but there's a huge bullish long lower wick. This candlestick is a huge hammer candlestick. It's very bullish. It was followed by upward movement. So these three candlesticks here as well together make a morning star. Not a very good one though. The hammer is the strongest of those candlesticks. And then the following session for the 7th of July closed below the lowest edge of support of the rectangle, which is now possibly providing resistance of 56,500. But because rectangles, I've been saying this for weeks, they are plagued by false breakouts. So you need to institute 2 or 3 day away rule. After the close below support on 7th of July, I want to see 2 or 3 days of downward movement down and away from that breakout in order to have confidence that the close below support on the 7th of July is not a false breakout, that we do actually have a downward breakout from the rectangle, and then we can use a target, 39,900. If we see the current session for the 8th of July and the following 9th of July as well close as red candlesticks moving down and away from resistance at 56,500, then we would have 2 days down and away from the breakout, and then we can have confidence that the breakout of the 7th is not a false breakout. We are indeed breaking out down and price is going to continue lower. If that happens, you should use the target 39,900. But because rectangles are plagued by false breakouts, and the current session so far it's a spinning top. It's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon for New York, but it's not a red candlestick. It's got a slightly lower high and a lower low, but it's not a decent red candlestick. Price is not moving solidly down and away. So far, it looks like this might be another false breakout. If that's the case, I'd expect overall upward movement. When we look at other indicators, I think that we probably do have a low in place. And also take a look at the fear and greed indicator. It's now in fear, getting close to extreme fear. From a contrarian point of view, that's probably the end of downward movement. Volume was pushing price lower to the last low, and now volume declined for the following 2 candlesticks. The current green candlestick for the 8th has some push from volume, and so far it's a green candlestick, so now volume is pushing price higher. Downward movement at the end of consolidations, pullbacks and bear markets does tend to end with strength. Bear markets also have strength in the middle, so it's impossible to tell at this stage which of those 2 scenarios, the middle of a downward movement or the end of a downward movement, is unfolding. ADX is telling us the downward trend is now extreme, but only just. There's quite a way to go before it gets as extreme as it can get. But RSI reached oversold on the 24th of June, and then it's developed a pivot on the 5th of July, and price has also developed a pivot. And there's bullish divergence between price and RSI. When RSI reaches oversold in a pullback or consolidation within a large bull market run, when it gets oversold at the end, that is usually the end. And if there's bullish divergence, that's an even stronger indication that a low has finally been found. This is really, really strong support for the view that the low is finally in for Bitcoin. No divergence with price and money flow though. But there is bullish divergence between price and stochastics reach fairly deeply oversold. So that quite strongly supports the view, along with the hammer candlestick pattern and the fear and greed indicator reaching deeply into fear territory, that the low for Bitcoin is quite likely, not certain, but quite likely to be in place. None of this is certain. The main Elliott Wave count for XRP also considers the low may finally be in place for a triple zigzag for my intermediate wave 2. Intermediate wave 1, a leading expanding diagonal. Intermediate 2, W, X, Y, triangle for X, Z, little zigzag. This all has a decent fit. It's not a very common pattern, but it's not rare. And so I had expected the low for XRP would most likely be in place for the week beginning 7th of April, but I did allow, and I had this was an alternate, allowing for a little bit more downward movement. Z has moved beyond the end of Y, so it's not the best looking triple zigzag, but it does have a slight downward slope. If it continues any further, intermediate 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 below 0.2794. XRP has also developed a very, very strong hammer candlestick pattern for the 5th of July, strongly suggesting that the support at 40 cents is likely to hold. We need to see resistance at 46 cents and, really importantly, 55 cents overtaken, broken above, before we can really have confidence that this low is likely to be intact. Volume was pushing price lower for the very short term. Now there's a little bit of push up from volume pushing price higher. ADX tells us there's still a downward trend for XRP and it's not yet extreme. RSI's reached fairly deeply oversold on the 5th of July, more so than the 13th of April. I had expected that meant that the 13th of April low was likely to remain intact. That has been breached, however. RSI is oversold. There's no bullish divergence, so we could see another lower low for XRP. We could see some bullish divergence develop before the low is finally in place. It's reasonably likely that the low may be in place here, but we need some resistance to be broken before we can have confidence in that view. That's it for me today with a very quick update for you, and I hope everyone had a lovely weekend.